Welcome to the news on Zodiac with me, Robert Kalua. The headlines. Seeded warns Nokma Mera impasse could plunge the country into a fuel crisis. Malawi adds 19 megawatts to its power supply. Magistrate Court in Lilongwe rejects an application by the state for virtual witness appearance in the Bushiri case. In sports, Malawi National Council of Sports institutes an independent committee to oversee Netball Association of Malawi NAM Executive Committee elections. We've got these and many more. Stick around. The Center for Democracy Economic Development Initiative, CEDED, has warned that unless President Dr. Lazarus Chakwera swiftly resolves the prolonged impasse between National Oil Company of Malawi NOCMA and Malawi Energy Regulatory Authority MERA over supply of fuel contracts, Malawi is likely to experience a fuel crisis. CEDED Executive Director Sylvester Namiwa has since implored President Chakwera to reinstate top officials at the two institutions who were recently suspended from their positions. At a press briefing in Lilongwe on Tuesday, Namiwa attributed the impasse to agreed among top officials in the two institutions. Meanwhile, as Chimomo Padata reports, government spokesperson Gospel Kazako says they are already looking into the matter.
A disagreement over the purchase of fuel between NOCMA and MERA is refusing to die. Just like other rights bodies, CEDED is expressing concern over the prolonged impasse, describing it as a recipe for a fuel crisis the country is likely to experience. CEDED Executive Director Sylvester Namiwa is now asking President Dr. Lazarus Chakwera to act on the wrangle.
Looking at this issue as not about fuel, it is about the economy, it is about the lives of the ordinary Malawians and the vulnerable. President Lazarus Chakwera should rise to the occasion and act.
Minister of Information Gospel Gazago has meanwhile said government is already looking into possibilities that would end the impasse.
We do not have to be victims of fear all the time. Whatever is being done is being done to make sure that there is continuous flow of fuel in this country, and there will be continuous flow of fuel in this country, so people don't need to worry, and everything is going to be all right.
Recently, the Natural Resources Committee of Parliament advised NOCMA to proceed with procurement processes of fuel that have now lasted over 7 months from the initial 4 months. The committee recommended MERA to act as a regulator as a way of ending the impasse, and that the Anti-Corruption Bureau institutes investigations into allegations that some officials are interfering in the operations of NOCMA. For Zodiac, this is Chimwemwe Padata.
Malawians are expected to experience improved power supply after President Lazarus Chakwera on Tuesday inaugurated 19 megawatts Tezan 4 hydropower plant. The president held the country's cordial relationship with the Japanese government through Japanese International Cooperation Agency JICA, which gave Malawi a $52 million grant for the power improvement project. I'll expand the file to this report.
The inauguration of the 19 megawatts Tedzani 4 hydropower plant by President Lazarus Chakwera is expected to reduce power challenges in the country. Speaking after opening the facility on Tuesday, an animated Chakwera held the cordial relationship with the government of Japan, which he described as a fantastic example of what can be achieved when two nations work together.
I announced that 1,000 megawatts would be added to the grid over the next 4 years. Today, with the commissioning of this power station, it's 19 megawatts down and 981 to go. I expect that the official Ministry of Energy will not allow us to lose this momentum or miss our targets. Our country has suffered power shortages for far too long and should not be expected to wait any longer.
The power improvement project was, however, initiated in 2017. Energy Minister Newton Gambala has disclosed that before the end of 2021, government will also commission 2 other power generation sites in Dedza and Salima to a total of 80 megawatts. Japanese ambassador to Malawi, Satoshi Iwakiri, has since committed his government's support towards improving the power sector, which he observed is a benchmark for development.
Maybe we'd like to trying to make another electric project here in Malawi, especially the substation in Lilongwe in the near future.
The Tedzane 4 hydropower plant stands through a $52 million Japanese International Cooperation Agency JICA grant and $4.8 million by the government of Malawi through the electricity generation company Egenco. For Zodiak in Blantyre, this is Alex Banda.
The president on Tuesday took some time to visit the Kamuzu University of Health Sciences mortuary to pay last respect to 2 soldiers who died in a presidential convoy road accident in Blantyre on Monday. Bodies of the 2 soldiers have since been ferried to their respective homes. The 2, Corporal Sheriff Maulana and Corporal Gift Kachedwa, all hail from Lilongwe. Christopher Sande reports.
Bodies of 2 Malawi Defense Force soldiers who died in a presidential convoy accident in Blantyre on Monday have been ferried to their respective homes in Lilongwe. The soldiers met their fate near Grace Bandawe when the vehicle they were traveling in overturned and plunged into a wall while escorting the president to Blantyre from the capital city. The departed soldiers, who were under military police department, are said to have served MDF for more than 7 years. Other 9 soldiers sustained various degrees of injuries during the accident. Before ferrying the bodies, President Lazarus Chakwera arrived at Kamuzu University of Health Sciences mortuary, formerly known as College of Medicine, to pay his last respects to the 2 soldiers. The president, who looked so disheartened, was joined by different senior government officials, MDF and police officers. Reporting for Zodiak from Blantyre, this is Christopher Sande.
The National Audit Office now says 1.3 billion kwacha allocations in the 2021-2022 national budget is going to seriously choke its operations. Acting Auditor General Thomas Makiwa told Cluster Committee of Budget and Finance and Public Accounts that the current allocation is even far worse than last year's 2.2 billion kwacha in the 2021-2022 financial year. According to Makiwa, gave a clue that the most likely to be affected areas are audits in embassies, ministries and government agencies. Co-chairperson of the committee, Gladys Ganda, has since sent back now officials and told them to come back to the House with Secretary to Treasury with an amended budget which will answer the discrepancies. Minister of Information Gospel Kazako has highlighted that government public relations officers are a major stakeholders in the successful implementation of the country's development plans, such as Vision 2063. The minister has said this on Tuesday in Lilongwe during an interface meeting with the PROs. However, the minister noted that the officers face challenges such as lack of capacity building trainings to discharge their duties effectively, which he said needs to be addressed. He explains more in this interview.
As government, we believe in communication, we believe in being transparent, we believe in being accountable. And the public relations officers are part of the compendium that will assist us to achieve that objective. They have information, and what we were doing here was to encourage them to give out as much information as possible, especially information that the law allows them to give out. We also were sharing with them the spirit of servant leadership, that when people are looking for information, they must be very cautious, they must be nice, they must rise up to the occasion and make sure that they are serving people very well. We are also sharing with them the 2063 vision, because information is very key. People must understand. Much more importantly, this meeting gave us an opportunity to share with them how government is looking at matters to do with the information and what they need to also communicate to the people. This government has achieved so much. We have achieved so much in agriculture, we have achieved so much in rule of law, we have achieved so much in the fight against corruption, we have achieved so much into the sector of women empowerment, and so on and so forth. Some of the things that had come out of this meeting are things that are motivated by lack of accurate and fluent direction, policy direction. There are things that are coming up because of lack of proper guidance by way of having administrative procedures that can be followed. So all these things, this is what we are doing day in, day out. Once we start to move fast, we are moving right now, and very shortly we are going to change our speed because it would have oiled the meal, the process meal of what we want to achieve.
On his part, Treasurer for the Public Relations Society of Malawi, Horace Nyaka, said efforts have to be made to ensure the PROs are well informed on development plans, such as the Agenda 2063, to assist in the implementation.
The first thing has to be a greater understanding of Agenda 2063 on the part of public relations people, because for you to explain things to the general public, the first thing you need to do is to understand. On the ATI, we're all happy that we're moving now. It's not only the duty of public relations officers, but everyone in government and parastatals to understand that now they've got an obligation to share information whenever required. Most of the public relations officers, especially in government departments, are on secondment either from the Ministry of Information or from other departments. This doesn't give them authority in their respective offices. In the departments they're working on, they are looked at as outsiders. As the Public Relations Society of Malawi, we have started engaging the Office of the President and Cabinet to regularize these positions. As long as these people are seen as outsiders in the departments, it's going to be difficult for them to carry out their work. So we would also want to urge government to put the position of public relations officer into the establishments of the respective ministries.
The National Planning Commission, with support from United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, has engaged an extra gear facilitating review of policies in all government sectors to be aligned with Malawi 2063 vision. Director of Knowledge and Learning at NPC, Dr. Joseph Nagoli, says the process is very critical in the push for effective implementation of the vision with well-coordinated policies. The Commission has presently convened a 3-day review meeting of the policies involving officials from various government ministries, departments and agencies in Lilongwe. We have this report.
Although the country had beautiful policies to support implementation of the past development visions, like the Vision 2020, poor coordination of policies in all sectors, it is said, impacted on successful implementation of the visions. In its push to avoid a repeat of the past scenario, National Planning Commission has embarked on a process of reviewing policies that are critical in supporting implementation of the new development blueprint, Malawi 2063. Director of Knowledge and Learning at the Commission, Dr. Joseph Nagoli, said at the start of a review meeting of development policies in Lilongwe that to achieve aspirations of Malawians in the new vision, policies need to support each other for effective implementation.
From there, we'll be able to see what policies are working, what policies are yet to maybe to be revised, and what gaps are we expecting to actually look into for us to operationalize the Malawi 2063. We also want to look at building capacity for the Commission and also other MDAs in terms of foresighting. This is a tool that actually you are horizontally scanning the future in terms of your policy perspectives.
United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, which is supporting the review process, says the country needs to start now creating policies that are aligned with the anticipated changes in the future for successful execution of pillars in the development blueprint. Dr. Agnes Jimbiri is head of governance unit at UNDP.
We have adopted what we are calling a portfolio approach. You are taking a systematic approach to a development problem. So what we are expecting and what we want to capacitate government is the capability of doing foresight and anticipatory governance. How they look at the horizon scanning in the future, and Vision 2063 is the future.
The Commission has since submitted the first 10-year implementation plan of the vision to Cabinet for approval. Pirantambala, ZBS News, Lilongwe.
You're watching the news here on Zodiac. We'll be back with more after this.
ndikolole kungonjezera mayunitsi a TNM kuyambira 200 kwacha kapena kuposera pamenepo mutha kukhala mmodzi mwa mamilioneya mu TNM tikolole promotion. Koma mukaonjezera mayunitsi ndi 100 kwacha kapena kuposerapo mudzilandira mabonus oyimbira foni, SMS kapena data pompo.
TNM, always with you.
Welcome back. Here are the top stories again. SIDED warns Nokma Mera impasse could plunge the country into a fuel crisis. Malawi adds 19 megawatts to its power supply. Magistrate Court in Lilongwe rejects an application by the state for virtual witness appearance in the Bushiri case. In sports, Malawi National Council of Sports institutes an independent committee to oversee Netball Association of Malawi NAM Executive Committee elections. Moving on with the news. Lilongwe Chief Resident Magistrate Patrick Chiro on Tuesday threw out an application by the state that South African witnesses in the Prophet Shepherd Bushiri's extradition case should testify virtually. He has since maintained his earlier order made in court in March this year that the witnesses must physically be present to testify. The matter has since been adjourned to second week of July. Madali Supiri was at the court.
In his application, Director of Public Prosecutions, Dr. Steve Kayuni, had argued that the witnesses cannot come to Malawi because of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as some logistical challenges, which included some flight connections as well as monetary constraints. He also backed his idea or their decision as government to have the witnesses present their evidence virtually by saying that even the Chief Justice had allowed that we are living in times of COVID-19 and that things must change, and that the High Court has had cases where some cases have been heard virtually. But in his ruling, Chief Resident Magistrate Patrick Chiro said that the magistrate courts, one, do not have jurisdiction where they have unlimited powers, unlike the High Court, on how they discharge or how they administer justice. Two, he said these witnesses must come physically to Malawi because they have to take an oath in Malawi and then proceed with their evidence, and they can't take that oath outside the country through video conferencing. So he has thrown out that application and also raised some issues that their flight connections, despite the COVID-19, flight connections are taking place between countries. So that was not a very plausible reason why these witnesses should not come. So he has adjourned the case until second week of July, when these witnesses are expected to be physically present in Malawi to start giving their testimonies.
Staying with the courts, a magistrate in Lilongwe on Monday granted bail to a KFC employee, Adil Patel, who was involved in a public altercation with a female guard at KFC premises, Benedetta Charlie. Patel pleaded with the court to settle the issue out of court, but the state argued that that was not possible as the accused had already pleaded not guilty to the charges of assault. The court has given the state 10 days to find a resolution with Patel. Let's now have a look at sports. The Malawi National Council of Sports has instituted an independent committee led by High Court Judge Justice Sylvester Kalembela to oversee Netball Association of Malawi NAM Executive Committee elections. Justice Kalembela also chaired the Electoral College that ran Football Association of Malawi election in 2019. The Council Sports Development Officer, retired Major General Clement Kafua, has told us the committee comprises 6 members, including an official from the Malawi Electoral Commission. Meanwhile, Kafua says Sports Council expects the elections within 2 months. Sambanda with more.
The Netball Association of Malawi NAM Executive Committee elections were expected to be held on 26th May in Salima, but the Sports Council suspended them 2 days before, following complaints lodged by one of the presidential aspirants, Mibawa Chongwe, over irregularities that marred nomination process. Sports Council said it would devise several interventions to attain free, fair and credible elections, including appointing an independent committee to oversee all electoral activities, starting with the fresh nominations. Confirming the appointment of Justice Sylvester Kalembera as the leader of the independent committee, Sports Council's Sports Development Officer, retired Major General Clement Kafua, says the committee has been mandated to run the electoral process, but the elections have to be conducted within 2 months.
They have all the guidelines. What we expect from them, I think, is to review the NAM constitution regarding the elections. So we expect everything will be done very well. We had a meeting with the NAM. There is an agreement that we made in the meeting with NAM to respect that the independent committee. Very independent. That's why we are saying that we have to come up with it, which we also will do those guidelines and together we can find a way forward. Justice
Sylvester Kalembera also chaired the Electoral College, which conducted the Football Association of Malawi elections in 2019. The battle for the presidency, which pits incumbent Kungekile Madise Matia, former Malawi Queens player Mibawa Chongwe, and Zomba Likankala constituency parliamentarian Abigail Sherif, has emerged as the epicenter of the NAM elections.
And that's what we have time for in this edition of news. But before we go, a look at the headlines once again. Seated warns Nokma Mera impasse could plunge the country into a fuel crisis. Malawi adds 19 megawatts to its power supply. Magistrate Court in Lilongwe rejects an application by the state for virtual witness appearance in the Bushiri case. In sports, Malawi National Council of Sports institutes an independent committee to oversee Netball Association of Malawi NAM Executive Committee elections. Visit our website, zodiacmalawi.com, for more news. My name is Robert Karua. Thanks for watching.